All right. The sun's breaking. I'm melting. I'm melting. Okay, let's get into this. I just break. I haven't seen the sun for about 3 days there. Just got a cloudy October day. Not too chilly today, but I heard it's supposed to be sun today and then rain for the rest of the week. It's like, no. But anyway. Okay, so my new frequencies. Notice I have no papers today. Well, today I just want to talk about something a little bit different, but that something that for all you doom porn junkies out there, to something you can follow and stuff like that is the DEFCON system, and what it is and stuff like that. And you can look around the site and see what the radiation reports are. It gives you like the continental, including mostly the United States and a lot of Canada, a little bit of Mexico. Which way the trade winds are going and stuff like that, so that if there was fallout where you would not want to be, so to speak. The way the trade winds go in Canada, they kind of do like a big W kind of thing like this. And of course, it comes right up into my front yard here and blows all the crap this way. So it snows in Alberta, or it gets cold in Alberta, and then they send it all to me. You know what I mean? That type of thing. But yeah, BC, when it's nice and mild in the winter there, they send it to Alberta, but they don't send it to me. Bastards. Both of you. Just saying. And yeah, so that's important to. You can go on that site and they have like the continental map there, and it's kind of like a live stream map of where the trade winds are and stuff like that, and you can get an idea that if there was fallout, where you would kind of be, where it would be kind of going and stuff like that. So it's a really neat site, and I've used it for years. It's just I forget to go on it from time to time. But right now we're there's 5 levels of DEFCON. Basically, what it is if you're at level 5, basically they're checking you for a pulse. Nothing's going on in the world. Everybody's happy and getting along, and everything's good. DEFCON 4, something is looming. There's an incident that happened. It could turn into something else. We don't know. Keep an eye on it. Whatever. DEFCON 3, something is about to happen or is happening that could lead to something very, very dangerous. And then DEFCON 2, oh my God, we're on the brink. DEFCON 1, we're pretty much, you get to know we're at DEFCON 1. You just look for the mushroom clouds, that type of thing. Give you perspective, okay, DEFCON 2 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay? So that gives you how serious that is. We're at DEFCON 3, and DEFCON 3 is pretty, we go there from time to time. It's how long we stay there really kind of keeps you nervous. Sometimes it's there for a couple of days. It does move around from time to time, but DEFCON 2 is really, the world knows when you're at DEFCON 2. DEFCON 1 is kind of like you're not going to be warned. And a lot of people ask me similar questions about, where the nuke's going to hit. And I did that WW3 targets, but just to recap, anything that is means of making war is like warheads. You got to understand, nuclear weapons in itself are kind of pointless in the sense of other than just destroying mass areas. Like they're not really designed to hit one thing, although they have variable yield nukes. They're not designed to really, hit little things. They're designed to take out big areas, but what big areas do you really take out? Runways, that type of thing, that makes sense to hit. Shipping yards, that makes sense to hit. Maybe dams, maybe, there is, big infrastructure, things like that, refineries, that type of thing. Those type of things, yeah, you can use them for that. All the Air Force bases, naval ports, that type of thing. That's where those things are kind of useful, but you could still achieve all those with cruise missiles, that type of thing, like radar stations. Like a nuke is wasted on a radar station is kind of it's kind of a waste. Population centers, yeah, okay, nukes make sense there, because again, the idea is to kill as many people as possible. The silos, bunker busters would probably be better on the silos than, cruise missile bunker busters would be better than the nukes, because you're trying to get into something, you're not trying to level an entire area. So Now, a buster nuke, yeah, okay, that'll work, but it's overkill. You're not going to need that much. Things like Cheyenne Mountain, there's no bunker busters capable of getting into that. Yamato Mountain, there over there in Russia, same thing. No, there's nothing capable of getting into those. So to nuke the top of them, you're nuking the top of a mountain. It's not really gonna do anything, right? The radiation might catch up after a while, but other than that, it won't really do anything. The warheads, the way they've got them going. Now, take this one with a grain of salt, but apparently 2,000 warheads are on standby right now in the States. I know there's over 450 silos in the Midwest USA. So the Midwest USA is going to take a shit kicking, that's for sure. In Russia, the thing about Russia is they have quite a few silos left, but nowhere near like that of the United States. So those will get a shit kicking too. But the thing is with the Russians, most of their missiles are on wheels, like Topol-M. That's apocalypse machines, right? The other stuff is like submarine or ship launched, and then the rest can be airborne launched. But the way the attack would go would be basically once the silos get emptied first, because you get one chance to empty those. If not, they get taken out. Then after the silos, you get aircraft doing strikes everywhere, and bombers and what have you. Then after that, the submarines finish off the job. That's typically the whole thing will take about an hour and a half. Basically, every nuclear weapon's at its target between an hour and a half, for the most part. Some of the bombers might take a few hours to get to their destinations, release points. I mean, a Tupolev bomber, a Bear bomber, a Tu-144 or 145, whatever it is. It used to be the Tu-95. To fly to the mid-Atlantic to start launching nukes from there, or off the coast of Alaska or whatever. And right now, Alaska, they're warning the Alaskans that you guys are about to get hellfire rain down on you pretty soon. You guys are going to be hit really bad. So bases like that, they're going to get hit bad. But the thing is that the mop up, the bombers will come in again about a week after and do a mop up, mostly with conventional bombs, to take out any remaining infrastructure that could be used as a war effort. Refineries, like say big factories manufacturing like Lockheed Martin or something like that. They're going to get hit. With a nuke, probably not, but with a cruise missile, definitely. The idea is to kill the means of making war. It's always been kind of War 101. Maybe, shoot the horses and burn the wagons, so to speak. That way you take away their means of making war. Kill the blacksmith, that type of thing. So you get the idea of where what the goal is. Is anything that can really be a threat. Fighters aren't as much of a threat as you would think, because fighters, even with long-range drop tanks, once they have long-range drop tanks on them, they really can't go that far. And of course, if all they have is a few air-to-air missiles, they're not really that much of a threat. You can take them down with surface-to-air fire and stuff like that. So fighters, they're limited to a lot of... Fighters are really more for defensive and escort. That's about really all they can really do. Yes, they can do ground attack and stuff like that, but they have to be within the region. Like if you have an F-15 or an F-18 or an A-10 or whatever in the area, sure, fine, within a couple hundred miles. Like an A-10 is fine up to 2,000 miles. But the problem is that an A-10 is definitely... You're going to know the thing's coming for a week ahead of time, you know what I mean? It's kind of slow. The other airplanes, like an F-15, is faster, but... Again, it's limited in payload. It could take out some things, like a Strike Eagle or whatever. But at that, it's going to be meeting fighters coming up as well. So the fighters, they're okay for escort and stuff like that. Like I say, they're fighters. They can do ground attack. Most of them are multi-rolled. And yes, even the F-15s can drop B-61 nukes and stuff like that. So they can do strikes and stuff like that. But they basically... The first thing they're going to target is like AWACS and tankers, stuff like that, satellites, all the stuff to blind the enemy. And all that stuff, the reason why they do that is because, again, it diminishes the ability to fight a war. And if we go to an analog system, which we would, very shortly, the first thing that the Russians are doing is going to be, and the Chinese is going to shoot down satellites. So are the Americans, and NATO. But the problem is once all the satellites are down, we're back to an analog war. And once we get back to an analog war, Russia and China definitely have that advantage. Why? They got numbers. Then you're in line of sight. Warships have to be within, mind you, the warships with their comm towers and their radars, they're up really high and they can detect over the horizon quite a bit. But you're still at a handicap, you get less of a heads up that the enemy is coming. So your Abrams tanks or Leopard tank crews don't know there's like 500 T-72s coming around the corner until they run right into them, and then it's just a it's just a slaughter fest like two pirate ships. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So the civilian population being targeted by nukes, yes, there is a certain amount of population to be killed off. It's been agreed upon for years, decades, that if you attack us, yes, they're going to go after the stuff that's more detrimental. But one of the threats is, and the reason why they did this was to get these citizens which right now are at the sleep at the wheel, although a lot more are waking up. Back, you have to understand, I'm in my 40s now, and back when I was a kid, I remember the Berlin Wall falling and the sigh of relief that it was, particularly watching the baby boomers, like when they saw that, even here, they're like, oh my God, good, the Cold War is over, that type of thing. And when I was a kid, the nuclear, even in the music, there was still like pop singers singing about the dangers of nuclear war, that type of thing, and there were still protests. Now it's social justice warriors, but there's no more protests to get rid of the bomb. You know what I mean? Like Sting singing songs like "Hope the Russians love their children too," stuff like that. There was all kinds of Killer Giants from Ozzy Osbourne, Two Tribes Go to War. I forget the name of the band there, and it goes on and on and on. There was all these, "Don't nuke us" kind of songs, right? Let's come to our sensibilities, because people understood, I think, a little better back then, that there was a threat. There still was a threat, and it collapsed. The Soviet Union didn't really collapse, but they looked like they collapsed. The people felt the collapse, but all the resources and money and stuff, resources got sold off to the oligarchs, pennies on the dollar, and then you've got all the money being diverted right into the military-industrial complex. The only difference between the Russians and Americans is right now the Americans are doing it overt, the Russians did it covert. So 30 years after they so-called collapsed, they're building these super weapons like Bory-class submarines and Yazan-class submarines. These things are state-of-the-art. They've got stealth aircraft coming out, new manless turret tanks like the T-14. All this technology just coming out of Russia like crazy right now. And they didn't, if you collapsed 30 years ago, you'd still have a military, but you wouldn't be modernizing like you wouldn't be modernizing 70 areas of the military like the Russians are. You wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't be able to afford it. So the Russians are basically, militarizing as much as possible. But they're doing it because of they really stepped it up in 2010 when the NATO agreement was basically broken, when they said, do not move NATO a thumb width closer to the Russian border, and we'll just de-escalate, you de-escalate. And the Russians, I can't say they made good on everything. Obviously with the nukes they didn't make good on it, between the 91 Bush and Gorbachev deal to limit both sides to 1,600 nukes, delivery systems, air, land, and sea, so airplanes, ships, subs, whatever, silos, no more than 1,600 delivery systems. The Russians didn't follow that one at all, and the American stuff is getting way behind and outdated. That said, a Minuteman 1, 2, or 3 is still plenty dangerous, that type of thing. And the thing is that we're in an escalation point right now. If we're at DEFCON 3, we're definitely in an escalation. It's not the first time this year we went to DEFCON 3. I think there's 3 or 4 other times this year that happened. It happens for different instance. A lot of what we're seeing too, and somebody pointed this out for me very, very the other day, that when I talked, like the big thing about the Russians training 40 million people to get to fallout shelters and calling their citizens back to Russia in case of war breaking out before the election. And again, I said, the closer we get to the election, we're going to see things unbelievable. And have I let you down? I don't think so. But yeah, the calling of citizens back, I haven't heard Putin doing that. Like, I've heard them call back diplomats because of sanctions, saying, yeah, you might as well come home because they're going to sanction you and you're going to be locked up in the country for a little bit, so, come home and whatever. But this is get home now. Drop what you're doing, even if you're in school or whatever, or business, whatever, it's in your best interest, get home now. Will people take that warning? Who knows? Is that just the Russians fear-mongering to get the Americans nervous so that they vote for Trump? Maybe. And the 40 million that were trained, and somebody pointed out in 2013, like I say, they do this drill every year. He says, but in 2013 it was 60 million that they trained for these fallout shelters, in this drill, the nationwide drill in Russia. And not a peep of it. And, that's a great point to make. Okay, well, why is it a big deal now? Well, it's a bigger deal now because not so much the propaganda coming from Russia, but the propaganda coming from Washington. Washington has basically threatened Russia, I don't know, in the past 3 weeks, talking about sending, if they don't get out of Syria, there's going to be Russian servicemen going back in body bags, no-fly zones, that type of thing. The Russians are going to call a bluff at some point. They're going to start shooting down NATO airplanes in Syria, American airplanes particularly. They're going to do this. They're going to have to do, again, the Russians are going to do that 50-50 win big, lose big, but that's going to bring us right to DEFCON 2. The Russians are going to bring us to the brink of thermonuclear war. They have to. They have no choice. If not, the Americans are going to go to war with them. So they have to get the people scared so that the people reject the war. They did this already. Somebody was telling me that Assad never had chemical weapons. Yes, he did. He had chemical weapons. Remember? Let's recap here. Remember when Obama sent those Aegis warships to just start firing Tomahawk cruise missiles into Syria, just out of nowhere, and then they were going to, butter the people up for a land invasion? And Kerry slipped and said, if Assad was to get rid of his chemical weapons, then we wouldn't have a reason to invade. And Assad said it. Those chemical weapons were for NATO. They were for foreign state, not to be used domestically. So then Russia comes out and tells Assad, hey, we'll just tell them we're going to get rid of the weapons. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. So then they have no reason to invade. So that foiled the plan for war. And yes, the war hawks in Washington were very, very upset that they couldn't get a new war. And the people rejected it. Now, you put us on the brink of thermonuclear war, it might, there's still going to be the people watching the football games and the hockey games and the Kardashians, whatever. But it gets to the point where it's no longer, you can't ignore it. It's like, oh my God, the Russians are going to shoot at us. Over what? Over what? What did we do to them? What did we do to them? And then they start looking at, what the hell is my government doing? Why are we provoking the Russians? I'm not saying the Russian government is saying that. I'm not a, and I get slagged every now and then when I diss Putin, but Putin's not a good guy either. He's not, there are no good guys in this ordeal. I would love to see the Russians overthrow their government as much as I'd love to see the Americans overthrow their government. And here in Canada, I'd like to wear a steel-toed chute when I'm kicking Justin Trudeau in the arse to get him out of Parliament. You know what I mean? These people are just douchebags. They're idiots. Most of them need to go to jail. And if there was ever a plea for law enforcement, military to step up and do their damn job, it's now. George Soros is out there talking about how, yes, Donald Trump is, could win the election with a landslide, but we're going to steal it for Hillary Clinton. She's going to win. It's an absolute. This is George Soros, who's using his voting machines in 16 states, so basically the voting's going to be rigged in 16 states. These people are so psychopathic, they tell you what they're going to do. And yet not one guy's got the balls to put the chrome bracelets on them. Crimes against humanity, just get it done. Get it done. Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Kissinger, Soros, Brzezinski, Bushes, Blairs, Obamas, Camerons, Harpers, whatever. One charge, crimes against humanity. You don't have to go after them for everything. One charge. Just show, and it's very easy, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You killed 1.5 million people on a lie. Oh, it was bad intelligence. Yes, but once you knew, all they have to do is prove that. Once they knew, they didn't call off the war. They kept staying the course. And they're doing it again for the Greater Israel Project, the Odin Yan plan. That's one part. The other part is to save the petrodollar. Yes, when Syria is retaken by the Syrians, the petrodollar is going to collapse, which almost guarantees war. So the Russians know this. Putin was out there, so that speech he did last month, it's not a very long speech. I forget the committee he was in front of, but it's you can find it. And it's basically where he's, saying like, I don't know how to get through to the people. How can you not understand that your government has you on an irreversible course to impending danger? Like the results are going to be beyond disastrous, and that the media lies to you and stuff like that. I think most Americans know this, and the idea that, and here's the proof in the pudding. A lot of people, well, Americans need to wake up. People know what's going on. People know what's going on. There's a lot of people that don't want to, face what's going on, and I understand why, because it's terrifying. But now's when you need to be brave. Now's when you need to be looking at, okay, the DEFCON 3 is a serious thing. This can go to DEFCON 2 very quickly. And the things going on in Syria, the United States government needs to go to war. You have to understand the United States has a death and debt-based economy. You take our currency, or you get a democracy JDAMs dropped on your country for regime change. And Syria is an illegal war. There was nobody that sanctioned this war. The same with Libya. You can get Obama and the Clintons just on that. People have died. 500,000 in Syria, 250,000 in Libya, or vice versa, whatever. The refugee crisis, all manufactured. All manufactured. Because people have died, so many have died, that's why you get these people on one charge, crimes against humanity. You can prove it very easily through their policies. They've signed documents. They've made speeches. They've incriminated themselves well enough. Put them in jail. They didn't have the go-ahead to do this legally. There's no reason why they shouldn't be in jail. Oh, they're too big to jail. You start with the person that says that. You start with the person that says that. You don't work your way from the bottom up. You start at the top down. I mean, at this point, it's us or them. If you love your families and you're law enforcement, you're not arresting these people. Yes, a few of you, they will fire you. They'll probably even kill a few of you. But the case in point is they can't get all of you. So get as many people. And if you have a director or whatever that's going against this, you need to put that guy in jail too. If he is in your way, you need to put him in jail. You have to say, why are you defending that person? Right now in the FBI, the FBI is really furious. A lot of people at the lower levels. There's going to be a mutiny in the FBI. Once that happens, it needs to happen in the DHS. The DHS should be disbanded anyway. It's a terrorist organization against its own people, jackboot thugs. It's a horrible organization. The NSA, go back to hunting submarines, that type of thing. Leave the people alone. Or get a warrant, that type of thing. So, same with Supreme Court judges. These people need to be removed, and you need to do it via rule of law, because anything other than that leads you to such chaos. You'll become a banana republic, and that leads to more death and destruction. You cannot leave these people in power for very much longer. Hillary Clinton cannot win the election. If she was like right now on the CBC up here in Canada, they're saying she has a 91% lead over Donald Trump. 91%. And they get this from maybe CNBC or one of the leftist polls anyway. Which we know if we just look at the rallies, Donald Trump. And again, I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump because there's going to be a lot of... my poor American brothers and sisters have no choice right now. They have no choices. They're in a rock and a hard place. It's become that insolvent that that's the best option they got is Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot of things he says that I like, but there's a lot of wild cards on this man, too. But the thing he says that I like that makes it a no-brainer is he's the only one not calling for war with Russia. Hillary Clinton is, her own words. When I'm president, I am going to invade Iran or attack Iran. Pretty much exact words. Yeah, I'm going to go to war with Iran. Her exact words. The cyber attack thing, you see that with Biden out there. They're trying the cyber attack. They're already attacking the propaganda of RT and stuff like that, pulling their funding in the UK. They're going to be doing cyber attacks against Russia in retaliation, although they've never offered 1 ounce of proof that Russia was ever cyber attacking them in the first place. So they're building it up so that they look... I think what they're gearing up for is to basically cancel the election. Because I think the State Department and those people, but even George Soros, they're so psycho. Like he says, we're the smaller group of radicals and stuff like that, but we're going to get our way. Look at all these people that are going around rigging the vote on camera. These leftists they're Trotskys. They're Trotskyish. It's very dangerous times. And they think what they're doing is okay to do. Oh yeah, we're going around and we're paying homeless people to attack people at Trump rallies and claiming to be Democrats, that type of thing. These people are very violent and they're psychopathic beyond belief. The problem is the people will calm down on the lower end. It's the leaders you got to get, your Soroses, your Brzezinskis, your Kissingers, all them. You got to get them because that's who the Clintons follow the marching orders from. The Rothschilds particularly. They funded all the banking system. So we're at DEFCON 3 not because the Russians are in Syria fighting terrorism. It's because the Americans are planning to do a no-fly zone in Syria when the Russians have already brought it. And they're bringing in, trust me, they're bringing in extra radar and stuff like that. Trust me, they're getting ready to shoot down American airplanes. And you're saying, well, if they do that, well, fuck them, we're going to go to war. Yeah, but you wouldn't be in this position in the first place. The whole thing is this war is a complete sham. It's not a matter of Russia shooting. Russia's going to do it to call the bluff of the United States. Like Putin said, we know a year in advance what these people are going to do. How they know, I don't know, maybe Snowden is a part of it. But the leaks that are coming out, you got Goldman Sachs talking to Hillary Clinton, how Hillary Clinton's going to put a ring of missiles around China and stuff like that. So these people they're completely crazy. Wars, death and destruction is their religion. And the Russians know this. Now the Russians, they're like, well, we're going to have to give them a signal that, and again, when Putin starts playing the crazy man, that's when we're on the brink. which DEFCON 3 is not the brink. DEFCON 2 is the brink. And what they're going to do is one of two things. They're going to probably, they've been talking about it. When they're going to do it, I don't know. I think they're just going to, the Russians have been just basically, like Putin said to his military forces in 2010, be prepared for 24/7 drills. They're coming out. And they've escalated from like a few thousand drills a year, which is normal, to like, almost 10,000 drills a year. And the size and scales of them are just astronomical. So they're playing their part in the saber rattling as well. But the thing is what they're talking about doing is setting off a nuke on a Baltic island. And the thing is I can't remember the name of the island. It's Scotland's going to notice it anyway, in the UK. And that's going to get the world's attention, saying, why are the Russians lighting off nukes, above ground nukes? That's going to be terrifying. That's to get your attention, that you can't ignore it anymore. And the mainstream cannot not report on it anymore. No matter what spin and the Russians don't care what spin they put it on. They just want the people to notice that, we're heading towards war. So the people are going to, and that I think will get instead of Occupy Wall Street types, you're going to get anti-nuke types out there. And that's a good cause. That we need the anti-war now before the draft takes place. The other thing that puts us right on the brink, whichever one comes first, I don't know what it's going to be, they just start shooting down, and they're probably going to shoot down unprovoked, like say an American pilot's flying, and they're going to make sure it's American pilots too, because that's the only thing that gets the world's attention. If they shoot down Belgian pilots, which have made a few attacks, I think they've been close to attacking Syrian positions, Syrian Arab Army positions, but that big attack, they're going to say, oh, it was an accident. It's not going to be an accident. They're going to do it on purpose. They're going to do maybe 2, maybe 3. I could see them shooting down at least 3 American airplanes to put Washington in the hot seat, say, why the hell are Russians shooting down our airplanes? Why aren't we reacting? Why aren't we responding? Yada, yada, yada. And then the populace is going to be saying, why are all these fucking generals trying to get us into a war? The real fight's going to be between the generals. You're already seeing it now. You've got these hotheads out there. We're going to beat you and we're going to kick your ass. We're going to do this. And then you got the other one saying a no-fly zone means a war with Russia. And Hillary Clinton knows this very, very well. There's no doubt about that. So with what's going on, it's very clear that the world elites are insane. They are clinically insane. And because Hillary Clinton, this is how crazy these people are. If she can't win, if she can't have the presidency, nobody can. And to stop her from getting the presidency, one of 3 major scenarios I talked about would take place. And it looks like they're working towards canceling the election because it's such a fraud. Even on the main street, like they're talking about Donald Trump's claims. Oh, he's making these claims that it's a fraud. You have all these Republicans. Anything but Trump Republicans. They're not Republicans. They're establishment guys. And the good thing about this is keep track of those people, because those are the people you never elect again. Because they show themselves, well, the Democrats and the Democrats are the Democrats, but the Republicans are traitor to their own party right now that are going against Donald Trump. Look, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party that support Trump because he's on their side, so to speak. Well, not really on their side, but he's for their party. But they don't like everything he says. Like, look, I don't like this about him. He's a bit of a loose cannon, whatever. But he's winning clearly. We do like this policy. We do like that policy. And that's the only thing you should be judging these people on is their policies. Now, Donald Trump, Do It With Dana, he's a moto vlogger, and I love what he said. He's not going to vote in the States. I think he should. Even if he votes for himself, I don't care. Like, vote independent, vote. Just get out there and vote and document that you voted. Take your camera with you, because if these electronic polling things, these are the ones that were used in Venezuela, and we've seen how that election went. Now, I'm a Canadian. I'm sitting there. My fate is in your hands down there. Vote. Take a picture of the ID of the voting booth that you vote at and your vote. That way, when they spin it, people can get together with their cameras and release pictures of their vote, saying, no, this doesn't add up in this area. This area, there wasn't not that. And the areas, you've got all these dead people that are voting. You got these people that are being bussed around, and Democrats out there saying, oh, yeah, we're bussing them around, and ha, 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 we're voting 10 times each type of thing. They're going to steal the election. And when it does, you're going to have a civil race war in your country. The race war is already being brewed by the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, openly admitted, or particularly by the Rothschilds. But if the Rothschilds are in it, the Rockefellers are in it. Mainly Soros is the agitator. He's the he's the agitator. He's openly admitting this. Yes, we're trying to get this agitation going. These are evil people, and they're so criminal. So that's going. Now, if Donald Trump were to win, which I'm so convinced that Hillary Clinton's going to win, not because I want her to win, but the fact that it's her turn to win. The system, the media is on her side. The bankers are funding her. George Soros is funding her. The Rothschilds are funding her. They're even coming out and admitting that, oh no, you had a Lady de Rothschild out there, saying how great Hillary Clinton is and why she's supporting her. If the Rothschilds support it, it's probably death and destruction in the making. These people they're so horrible. They're so horrible. There's nothing good they've ever done for humanity. That said, with a Hillary Clinton win, you do get a thermonuclear war with Russia. Now, maybe Russia is trying to sway the election in the sense of, well, we know Donald Trump, he's not going to be a pushover. They know that, but he's willing to work with us. So let's show them how scared we are right now. Oh, we got this drill of 40 million people going to the bunkers. We're calling back citizens in case a war breaks out. The Kremlin is warning that a war could break out. And if you're in Russia, let us know what the rhetoric is over there too, because it's good. I like to hear from the other side because we don't get the same media. But basically, the Kremlin is saying there could be war before the election. Will there be war? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think we're going to see some pretty terrifying things. I think war comes slightly after the election, after Hillary Clinton wins. How far after? Give it 6-8 months tops. But in that 6-8 months, sleep was a nice thing. Like Stefan Molyneux said, sleep was, it was so nice. Once upon a time, you were able to sleep. People that, again, I don't tell people to sit there and be scared or anything, but you have to be informed. You do have to be informed. Stefan Molyneux did a phenomenal thing about his take on the current events and stuff like that of World War, all this build up to World War III, and it is a build up. But the Russians, again, like I've said, they do that 50-50 win big, lose big. If they win everything. If they lose an arm. So when they start shooting down, and they're going to lose a few aircrafts themselves, they're going to bring it to the brink, to the point where you have no choice, but the people are going to have to take control. That's what the Russians are going to do. That's their strategy right now. I've said that for almost a year now, that the Russians, at some point, Putin is going to have to play the crazy man. I'm just a guy who has common access to the internet. Yes, there's a lot of disinformation out there. I get that, but it's out there, and it's out there for a reason. And I'm talking from the official sites, from the Kremlin, from listening to Obama, listening to Clinton, listening to Putin, listening to these people. When you listen to these people, they tell you what's going on. Kissinger, Brzezinski, Soros. You listen to these. These people they just say what they say. And again, they think they're immune to everything. They're crazy. They're completely crazy. So scenario one is the election is so rigged that the people just don't turn out to vote at all. And do it with Dan, who he's not going to vote for. His video I thought was really well done, and stuff like that, because every American has got to be under such stress over this election. I can imagine his family members not talking to each other. No, you vote for Clinton. No, you vote for Trump. No, we need to just put these people in jail. Like an election is really the least of the problems. It really is. It's the craziness that they're in, that they need to get their government back. They need to start putting people in jail. Citizens arrest if you have to. Whatever it takes. If the law enforcement military aren't going to do their job, it's going to lead to death and destruction on a scale unimaginable. So they have to do this. They never mind about your career and stuff. It's beyond that now. The go along, get along, it's beyond that now. They have to put the director of the FBI in jail. They have to put the director of the CIA in jail, and a lot of these other spooks in jail. They have to put the Kissingers, Brzezinskis, and Clintons, and Bushes, Blairs, Obamas in jail, or we're going to die. We're going to die in a thermonuclear war. The Russians will take it to that level. And if they miscalculate, the missiles get launched. If they call the bluff, they win the table. That's where we're at. When's it going to happen? I don't know. Everybody asks me that all the time. Reg, when do you think it's going to happen? I really don't know. I really cannot say when it's going to happen. All I was going to say is we can look at connecting the dots, and it is telling us that we're at DEFCON 3 right now. It might chill out for a bit. That's usually the way it works. is we get to DEFCON 3, and then they go back. The government goes back to the drawing table to find another way around the Russians. And the Russians have been blocking the Americans at every pass in Syria. They have control in Syria. The Russians aren't going to get rid of it. So every time you hear this, oh, that's it, the peace talks are over, the Russians counter. And when they counter, oh, okay, well, we're going to talk again. But every time the Americans try to talk, what do? They give ISIS a time to go from Mosul to, and they get an American escort into Syria, that type of thing, and then the Iraqis can clean up whoever's left over because they're not fighting where they want. That type of thing. That's what Mosul's about. I think the Iraqi military is trying to go rogue from the United States as much as possible. They're even working with the Iranians to a small degree, but they can't get in too much because the Americans have threatened the Iraqis not to work with the Iranians or else. So you can see how the American government is so corrupt. And the world can see this. The world can see this. There's no reason to be in the Middle East, period, other than the Greater Israel Project and the petrodollar. That's it. But you have to understand, we could throw Israel under the bus. That's no problem. That won't affect the rest of humanity. Well, it'll affect humanity in a good way. It'll affect the Middle East in a better way because it'll stabilize if we stop going to wars for Israel and the bankers. The Odeon plan is something you need to look into if you're not aware of it. Because everything that was talked about that back in the 1960s or 70s, whenever it came out, you're seeing now. It's a plan. The Middle East is not by accident. This is not a war that got out of control. This is right on schedule. The problem is the monkey card, or the monkey wrench in it, is the Russians. They weren't planning the Russians to come into the aid of Assad. I always wondered why they waited till the last minute to come in. They could have stopped this thing. This is where the Russians could have done it right from the get-go and completely foiled the plan to the point. But the Russians, again, they're taking advantage too. They basically get to try out all their new weaponry and go back to the drawing board, redesign things. It's the best training exercise they have. They've only spent $400 million, on the whole ordeal, or maybe $900 million on the whole ordeal. That's basically, a little more than their average training exercises. You know what I mean? But this is live fire. They get to find out what equipment works. So much like the Spanish-German war just before World War II. They're getting a lot of training there, right? The other thing is that the Russians came in, right just as the Syrian Arab army was about to fall. The Russians come in a year later. They're pretty much taking back all of Syria. But when Syria falls, the petrodollar falls. John Kerry said this. He is right because it creates an area where you can't put a Rothschild bank. There is no Rothschild bank in Syria. There's also not one in North Korea, and the ones in Russia are being closed down. There's still one in Russia, for as much as I understand. But they're getting kicked out. So that said, or it could all be theater, that the Russians are in it too. But I don't think they are, because they've had so many opportunities to go to war. The shooting down of the Russian, the shooting down of the Russian Su-24 took us to DEFCON 3, and just a little bit before that, there was that incident up at the Arctic that apparently American it might have been us Canadians. NATO airplanes may have been shot down, Canadian airplanes may have been shot down, but I don't think so, because you would hear about it here in the sense that the families would talk. We're only 36 million people here, trust me. News travels fast. If somebody's military loved one gets killed, the country knows about it, because, they can't keep it secret. Why? The families talk. They're like, oh my God, my husband got shot down, or they might not know the incident, but they won't even tell us what happened. They won't even tell us it's a training accident, that type of thing. But we have the audio from that, and apparently some American warships, the naval commander, she refused to launch at Russia. Not naval commander, but anyway, that whole story. Now, was it true or not? We'll never know. Was it propaganda? Was it a tall tale? We'll never know. But there is RCAF, audio that was released. Sounds like they were chasing something down. They were French-Canadian pilots, and that brought us to DEFCON 3. So that to me was even higher than the Cuban Missile Crisis, if you ask me. And then about a week later, things calmed down. Right now we're at DEFCON 3 because the ratcheting up of the United States. I mean, Joe Biden is basically declaring war on Russia, saying, yes, we're going to be, at the time of our choosing, sending Russia signals. And when asked, doing with the cyber attacks, we're going to, over the election thing. And are the Russians trying to manipulate the people to vote for Donald Trump? Absolutely. It's in their best interest to do so. That type of thing. You have ladies like Jill Stein out there, Green Party leftist. I don't know much about this lady, but and leftists are usually the last to buy into, World War III conspiracy theory. They don't believe in anything other than LGBTQ and women's rights and feminism. That's usually all, in global warming. That's the only areas they usually dabble in. But even this lady, she goes, I don't like the idea of voting for Trump. And she goes, I really don't like the man at all. But I won't sleep at night. I'll be terrified with the idea of a Hillary Clinton presidency because she will lead to war. So people are waking up that, yeah, it will lead. We're on the brink of war, or close to the brink of war. Again, until the Russians Putin starts playing the madman, it's slightly after, war comes slightly after Putin plays the madman. How far after, I don't know. I can't give you the time, but if we could look at it historically speaking, once we see the Russians lighting off, I think before they shoot down American airplanes, they will detonate a live nuke test, unannounced, just boom, knockout power in Eastern Europe or something like that. Just from it's going to EMP. The world is going to have to notice it. They're going to make a big bang, 100+ megaton. Tazar 2, the Tsar Bomb 2, Tsar Bomb, whatever. That thing was the largest nuke ever detonated. That was a scaled down version of the big monster that they wanted, 100 megaton. So the 50 megaton was the biggest. It was a scaled down. The Tupolev 95 Bear pilot at 50 or 60,000 feet in a slight dive at 650 miles per hour dropped that thing. That crew dropped that thing, and they would just got away. The blast from that nearly took out that airplane. 60,000 feet. Okay, that's 10 miles high, and they barely got away. The shockwave went around the world 4 times. That pulse went around the world 4 times. And that's the baby model. And the bombs they have now are even more crazier than that thing. We can't imagine the destruction from these things. We just can't imagine the destruction. So, yeah, you've got lots of people, fear-mongering, sure, granted, but we are talking about, again, the evidence. It's terrifying when you think about it. Again, people that watch my channel, I want you to go out and live your life. There's things we can control, things we can't control. The 99% rule applies here. You have 99 people who want peace, 1 wants to go to war, you're going to war. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. History is written by the radicals. Radical always begets radical. And right now, radicals are in charge. So I think just before the election, the eve of the election is going to be bloody in the United States. People are going to die on that night. There's going to be people knocked off. There's going to be riots. There's going to be voting polls attacked. We could see it now. The ramping up is now. In other words, the election might be canceled because of that. The other things that might happen, we're still 2 weeks away. If we go on the brink with Russia, martial law gets declared, there will be no election. Obama will be in power. The election will be postponed, etc., etc. We go on the brink. That will cancel the election. A war with Russia cancels the election. And they will do this in one of 2 reasons. The first reason is Hillary Clinton. They just can't steal the election properly. And they're going to, because you have to understand, if they steal the election, the hellhounds are going to get, the rule of law is gone if that election is stolen. And that puts hellhounds number 2 in the mix of things. And I'll just for guys, you've been hearing me talk about the Hydra coming out of the work. I talked about them in 2012. And it was slowly after the James Home attack. I said, the Hydra are coming. You're going to see these guys coming out of the woodwork. I didn't know where they were going to come out. It turned out they were ISIS. But they would worship one ideology. You can't reason with them. You can't bargain with them. They're insane. They're going to attack the populace. That type of thing. Hail Hydra. And they're loyalists to the cause. The only one way to deal with a loyalist is you have to kill them. That's just the way history works. And turned out it was ISIS. And they just popped up everywhere. Right? Now, they popped up, yes, they are manufactured. There's no doubt about that. Made up of a lot of willing participants and mercenaries. And even Joe Skousen says there's probably 90% of the terrorism you see in the States, or in the Middle East, is done probably by American mercenaries and Mossad mercenaries who lead these jihadi groups. You know what I mean? Like so there's a lot of people saying it, and there's a lot of evidence for it. Who lets 9,000 jihadists leave Mosul with an escort? Like, who does that? Who does that? You know what I mean? It's just, if you're arming terrorists, you're a terrorist. CIA guys, and these people need to be, they need to be put in jail. The first wave hellhounds, they look like Donald Trump when he was saying to Hillary Clinton, when she said, "Glad you're not in charge of our Supreme Court justice." He goes, "Yeah, because you'd be in jail." That's a first wave hellhound. People that are the guys in front of the Congress now that are pulling all these Clinton defenders in front of them. These are first wave hellhounds. They're not going to be successful, unfortunately. I wish they would, because they would restore rule of law, giving immunity to people that they need to make examples of these people. You tell us the truth, or we hold you in contempt. And if you're linked to this, you go down too. There should be no quarter given to these people. The times are way too radical for this. These people need to be going to jail. Make an example of them. And if people aren't coming forward, you say, if you come forward, we'll give you immunity. If we have to subpoena you, you go to jail. Bang. You'll get so many people, again, self-preservation kicks in. I'm not going to jail for Hillary Clinton. Here's what she did. Give me immunity. I had no choice. Whatever. Okay, fine. We'll take the big fish. Because right now, lives depend on it more than anything. You're going to see people getting knocked off even more. We've seen a few people knocked off already for Hillary Clinton. Magically a day before they can testify. It's the same thing that happens with Obama. The Clinton Deadpools and Obama Deadpools are unbelievable. I think it's over 54 people or 55 people with Obama. Lost count with Clinton. These are people that can't testify. So you have to understand, first wave hellhounds they failed. They failed. They failed. So the second wave will take in, I think, just around the election, time of the election, where you're going to see, right after the election when Hillary Clinton wins, because George Soros already said, yeah, we're going to steal the election, basically. His voting machines are in 16 states, trust me. They don't need them in all the states. They just need to be able to sway the vote. That said, how many Democrats are not going to go out and vote because they have nobody to vote for? That type of thing. Again, getting back to the do it with dad thing. And again, this is a guy who just wants to blog, and that's the problem. Everything has become so hypersensitive and political. This mug is political because it's too white. It's racist. You know what I mean? That type of thing. It's everything is an issue now, and the people that don't want to be in the conversation at all, they're at the point where they can't avoid it. When Russia lights off a nuke, that conversation, you're not going to be able to pay attention to the Kardashians or the football team or anything like that. It's like Russia just let off a nuke above ground, and again, I'll do the voice. It's like, oh my God, Russia lighted off the nuke. They knocked out power in Eastern Europe with an EMP, and half of Russia's out of power because of their own nuke was so damn big. It shook the Earth 5 times. That type of thing. It was an 11.0 magnitude on the Richter scale. And the Russians would be, oh boy, there was big explosion. You see, there's no more island. It's now smoldering rubble. We can't even find it. It was so big. It went up. It took hours to come down. It was so big. It was terrifying. Imagine that over your city. Let's talk. Dobra den, как проживающий, чеки мой. Yeah, that's all the Russian I know. Нет. But anyway, you get the idea. People are going to notice that, and everybody's going to be talking about it. Everybody's going to be nervous about it. Everybody's going to have that glaze in their eyes. And I get this with people that watch my channel and my family members and stuff like that. And I get that kind of, they want to talk about it, but I won't bring it up. I will not bring it up. I don't talk politics to my family at all. I don't do it. I want them to come to me. Some of them do. I remember before my mom passed away, she asked, because, she would be on Facebook. My mom wouldn't watch the news, completely not into that geopolitics stuff. Didn't want to know about it, didn't care about it, whatever. And she knew the stuff I was posting because obviously I had it on my Facebook and stuff like that. I posted to my Facebook. And I only people I know personally I add to my Facebook. I don't add anybody else because of family and stuff like that. But anyway, she asked me one day, she was, "Rich, is there going to be a war?" I said, yeah. I said, I don't know when. And I explained a little, not too much to terrify, but just explained the banking system and how corrupt it was. And I left it at that. It's because of the banking system, the petrodollar, and I gave her just the basics. Not, oh my God, it's because of this, they don't need that much. They just need to know, yes, there is something happening. So, you give them a little bit at a time. Crumbs. That's what my whole World War III is about is, here's a dot, you connect them. You think for yourself. What do you think? I never say war is imminent because I don't know. But right after they light off a nuke, that's when it's fresh. That's when I think the Russians would most likely make the calculation to shoot down NATO airplanes. They might not even be in Syria. They might shoot down a B-52 patrolling too close to the Russian border, saying, "Oh, we thought it was on." Like, okay, let's say the B-52 is coming in like this and it's going to pace the border, but they see the B-52 coming in this way, and it's like, oh, it was over our borderline. They're going to dispute the borderline. It'll be 10 miles out, but they'll say, we shot it down because, they'll play, they're going to set the Americans up for this so that they purposely get an excuse to shoot down and take down a B-52 bomber. Again, if you are a nation and you know that there's a bomber that can clear a 10-mile strip with conventional weapons, let alone enough nukes to take out half the country, pacing your border, and you're going to be paranoid. So yeah, they might send up an Su-27. I think they would most likely use a surface-to-air missile and say, "Oh, sorry, our bad. It was an accident. It was a mistake." That's what the Russians are going to come out and they're going to say. It was a mistake. We're sorry. And they'll shoot that down. Then they'll shoot down a couple airplanes. I think they'll shoot a total of 3 airplanes down, and then they'll call it there. Then at that point, let's talk, or we're going to go to war. And that's the bluff charge. That's what I predict. When they're going to do this, I don't know. They will do this during a Clinton administration. If Donald Trump was to win, you'll get a civil war to a degree, but it'll be the least bloodiest one in history, and but you will have an economic collapse. That you will have. No one's going to work with Donald Trump. And one thing, do it what Dan said, and I 100% agree with this. That the reason why he goes, if Donald Trump was to win, he goes, it would be, and I think secretly he's going to vote for Trump. It's just he doesn't want to say it. But he's like, I'm not going to vote at all. He goes, I don't like what he stands for, whatever. No, he knows what's at stake. He's going to vote for him. That's my prediction. But, again, who knows? But he did make a great point. He goes, if Hillary Clinton, like he points out, she's so corrupt, she's a criminal, and people are dying because of her. Whatever. But he goes, if Donald Trump wins, he goes, the good news is nothing's going to happen for 4 years. No one's going to work with Donald Trump, and he's right. The GOP isn't going to work with Trump. Mind you, I think Trump will gut the GOP pretty darn fast. And I really can't see any GOP candidates getting elected easily. So it's like, yes, you vote for the candidate, which gives the vote for the president, that type of thing. The same here in Canada. It kind of works the same way. You vote for the party, and then if you get enough party votes, you get a prime minister out of it. Sure, granted. But that said, doesn't mean the cabinet can't be purged. There's going to be a lot of purging. Yes, the president does not have unlimited power, thank God, but there is going to be a purging. There's no doubt about that. And I think that would be the best thing. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next up, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. And have yourselves a great day. Good day. Hi and welcome. All right. The sun's breaking. I'm melting. Okay, let's get into this. I just break. I haven't seen the sun for about 3 days here. Just kind of cloudy October day. Not too chilly today, but I heard it's supposed to be sun today and then rain for the rest of the week. It's like, no. But anyway. Okay, so my new frequencies. Notice I have no papers today. Well, today I just want to talk about something a little bit different, but something that for all you doom porn junkies out there, something you can follow and stuff like that is the DEFCON system, and what it is and stuff like that. And you can look around the site and see what the radiation reports are. It gives you like the continental, including mostly the United States and a lot of Canada, a little bit of Mexico. Which way the trade winds are going and stuff like that. So that if there was fallout where you would not want to be, so to speak, the way the trade winds go in Canada, they kind of do like a big W kind of thing like this. And of course, it comes right up into my front yard here and blows all the crap this way. So it snows in Alberta, or it gets cold in Alberta, and then they send it all to me. You know what I mean? That type of thing. But yeah, BC, when it's nice and mild in the winter there, they send it to Alberta, but they don't send it to me. Bastards. Both these. You're saying? And yeah, so that's important to you can go on that site and they have like the continental map there, and it's kind of like a live stream map of where the trade winds are and stuff like that, and you can get an idea that if there was fallout, where you would kind of be, where it would be kind of going and stuff like that. So it's a really neat site, and I've used it for years. It's just I forget to go on it from time to time. But right now we're there's 5 levels of DEFCON. Basically, what it is if you're at level 5, basically they're checking you for a pulse. Nothing's going on in the world. Everybody's happy and getting along and everything's good. DEFCON 4, something is looming. There's an incident that happened. It could turn into something else. We don't know. Keep an eye on it, whatever. DEFCON 3, something is about to happen, or is happening, that could lead to something very, very dangerous. And then DEFCON 2, oh my God, we're on the brink. DEFCON 1, we're pretty much, you get to know we're at DEFCON 1. You just look for the mushroom clouds, that type of thing. Give you perspective, okay, DEFCON 2 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay? So that gives you how serious that is. We're at DEFCON 3, and DEFCON 3 is pretty, we go there from time to time. It's how long we stay there really kind of keeps you nervous. Sometimes it's there for a couple of days, and it does move around from time to time, but DEFCON 2 is really, the world knows when you're at DEFCON 2. DEFCON 1 is kind of like you're not going to be warned. And a lot of people ask me similar questions about, where the nuke's going to hit, and I did that WW3 targets, but, just to recap, anything that is means of making war is like warheads. You got to understand, nuclear weapons in itself are kind of pointless in the sense of other than just destroying mass areas. Like they're not really designed to hit one thing, although they have variable yield nukes. They're not designed to really, hit little things. They're designed to take out big areas, but what big areas do you really take out? Runways, that type of thing. That makes sense to hit. Shipping yards, that makes sense to hit. Maybe dams, maybe, there is, big infrastructure, things like that, refineries, that type of thing. Those type of things, yeah, you can use them for that. All the Air Force bases, naval ports, that type of thing. That's where those things are kind of useful, but you could still achieve all those with cruise missiles, that type of thing, like radar stations. Like a nuke is wasted on a radar station is kind of it's kind of a waste. Population centers, yeah, okay, nukes make sense there. Because again, the idea is to kill as many people as possible. The silos, bunker busters would probably be better on the silos than, cruise missile bunker busters would be better than the nukes because you're trying to get into something, you're not trying to level an entire area. So now a bunker buster nuke, yeah, okay, that'll work, but it's overkill. You're not going to need that much. Things like Cheyenne Mountain, there's no bunker busters capable of getting into that. Yamato Mountain, over there in Russia, same thing. There's nothing capable of getting into those. So to nuke the top of them, you're nuking the top of a mountain. It's not really going to do anything, right? The radiation might catch up after a while, but other than that, it won't really do anything. The warheads, the way they've got them going. Now, take this one on a grain of salt, but apparently 2,000 warheads are on standby right now in the States. I know there's over 450 silos in the Midwest USA. So the Midwest USA is going to take a shit kicking, that's for sure. In Russia, the thing about Russia is they have quite a few silos left, but nowhere near like that of the United States. So those will get a shit kicking too. But the thing is with the Russians, most of their missiles are on wheels, like Topol-M. That's apocalypse machines, right? The other stuff is like submarine or ship launched, and then the rest can be airborne launched. But the way the attack would go would be basically once the silos get emptied first because you get one chance to empty those. If not, they get taken out. Then after the silos, you get aircraft doing strikes everywhere and bombers and what have you. Then after that, the submarines finish off the job. That's typically, the whole thing will take about an hour and a half. Basically, every nuclear weapon's at its target between an hour and a half for the most part. Some of the bombers might take a few hours to get to their destinations, release points. I mean, a Tupolev bomber, a Bear bomber, a Tu-144 or 145, whatever it is, it used to be the Tu-95, to fly to the mid-Atlantic to start launching nukes from there or off the coast of Alaska or whatever. And right now, Alaska, they're warning the Alaskans that, you guys are about to get, hellfire rain down on you pretty soon. You guys are going to be hit really bad. So bases like that, they're going to get hit bad. But the thing is that the mop-up, the bombers will come in again about a week after and do a mop-up, mostly with conventional bombs, to take out any remaining infrastructure that could be used as a war effort. Refineries, like say big factories manufacturing like Lockheed Martin or something like that. They're going to get hit. With a nuke, probably not, but with a cruise missile, definitely. The idea is to kill the means of making war. That's always been kind of War 101. You know, shoot the horses and burn the wagon.